Hello, I'm Dennis with doityourselfdennis.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install ceramic tile on a shower wall. To get started, let's go over some of the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a notch trowel, and the size of the notch is going to be determined by what size tile you're going to put on the wall. You can go up to 8 by 8 inch tile and use a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch notch. If you get over 8 inches, you're probably going to want to use a 3/8 inch notch trowel, being 3/8 inches deep and 1/4 inch wide. So when you use the trowel, you're going to need a torpedo level, a variety of putty knives. I keep on hand. I keep a screwdriver on hand to clean out any thin set that gets in where the grout line is going to be. You're going to need a square of some sort. A speed square is nice. A small level, tape measure, a pencil, and I think that's pretty well it. You're going to need a 5-gallon bucket and a mixer paddle for mixing your thin set, and a measuring to measure the water that you're going to put in for the thin set. But other than that, that's pretty much it, I think. So let's get started with laying out the tile. What I generally do is I like to lay the tile out on the floor to get an idea of how my tile is going to lay out as far as width goes. So you're going to start out by getting the center of your wall, and I've already got it marked right here. And you can either take your tile and whatever size it is, split it in half. This is a 9-inch tile, so I divided it by 6 because the tile are going to lay this way. So we got 6 inches. So I've got it lined up on the line, and then I've got my tile laid out next to it, and we got about 3 inches on the end. The other way would be to put the end of your tile on the center line and determine how much room you got. And it's just kind of a personal preference, how you want to, which way you think looks better. So that's how I got that, and it's really not going to matter on this particular job because the tile are going to be offset. Every other one's going to be the opposite. So then we'll go back and forth kind of like you're laying brick. So it really doesn't matter on this job. Next, you're going to need to determine where to start. I like to put a board on the wall and to get my first row, and the reason I do that is this bottom row I'll come back after this is dry and put it on. And the reason I do that is because your floor is probably not perfectly level or perfectly straight, so you can't hardly lay your tile on there and expect it all to come out straight. So you start out with a nice straight edge, and then you work this piece in after the fact. And the way I determine where to put my board is, let me stand up so I can kind of show you. What it is I've got some built-in shelves back here, and at the top of them shelves I'm going to put a border. So I determined where my border was going to go, and I drew me a line. I made me a level line, and then you work your way down. I actually take a tile, and I get my wife to help me, and I lay a tile up here, and then I work my way down, and I take the spacers that I use for my grout line, I put them between there, and I work my way all the way down to where I'm going to be about 9 inches off the ground. So I think I'm about 8 inches actually is what it's going to be, so I'm going to end up cutting a little bit off, and that's really what you want. You want your bottom one to be able to cut off a little bit. So that's how I came up with my line, and what I did was I made my mark, and then I made a level line all the way across the wall, and then I put my board up. So that's basically how you get it lined out. The next thing would be to mix your thin set and get ready. You can go ahead and try and, if you have obstacles to go around, And if they're close to where you're starting out, you can go ahead and try to pre-cut some of your pieces. Makes things go a little faster, because you don't have to take a break every time you have to cut something. But it's going to be a little hard to do like your ends until you get going. It's a little easier on your first wall. But actually what we're going to do this wall first and then this wall. And the reason you do that is as you enter the shower, you want the grout line to be to one side or the other of you. Like the other end, I started the opposite wall from here, I started with it, or I would start with it. I'd put that on, and then I'd come out, and then I'm coming to this wall, we're going to go this way and then this way, so that my grout line is on this wall. And so it's just appearance thing, so you don't see the grout line as obvious. So the next thing, I need to mix my thin set, and we'll get started. Something else to point out about my thin set is generally you buy a bag, a 50-pound bag, and I've cut it in half because I find it pretty hard to, especially when you're doing something like this where you're going to be doing a lot of cutting. I just mix half a bag at a time, and I just use a scale and I weigh my bag out until I get to 25 pounds. Because you put your water in first and then you mix it all up. But what I was going to say, something else about your first wall, it's not quite as critical to cut these pieces. So you can go ahead and, if you can determine how wide you need it, you can go ahead and cut them with a tile saw, and because you're going to cover them up. Well, on this wall here would be. You can cut it with a tile saw, and it doesn't have to be necessarily nice and straight. Whereas with your finished wall, you would want to cut it with a tile saw, or a wet tile saw, so that you can make a nice straight line. But let me get my thin set mixed up, and then we'll get started. Okay, we're ready to start laying our tile on this wall. I've already come this way with this tile, and then on this side with this tile. So I've got my wet towel, I've got my pencil, got all the tools I need, putty knives, and a screwdriver, square, a level, my spacers. So what you're going to start out doing is you're going to center this between the two walls. And I mean, like I said earlier, you can go either offsetting it to where you start out with the center like this, or you can start it going this way. With this particular job, we're staggering them, so it doesn't really matter. So, but we're going to start out centering it like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to make your center mark, and then if you're going to stagger them like I'm doing, these are 12-inch tiles, so we're going to stagger it by 6 inches. So I've made another mark 6 inches away from there, and what you're going to do is this board is already level, and then you're going to make a level line. Sorry? Plumb line, yeah. And the thing about it is you won't be able to see it once you get your thin set on there. You're going to be covering it up. So it just kind of gives you something to go by above. I always keep a little level with me to level up from one piece to the next, as far as I'm staggering it like I am. So you're going to put your level line on both. Just going to give you something to go by. You go on up. We're just going up to this line here, so. Okay. All right, so now we've got that set. So now we're ready to start putting our thin set on. And instead of using my trowel, I use a putty knife. It just seems to go on a little easier with it. You're going to get you some on your knife, and then you just come up with it. And you're just going to I'm just going to do this first row. start out with. Well, I might go ahead and do 2 rows. Come up too high. You don't want to do more than you can do in about 10 minutes time. We'll get that off the ledge here in a minute. And then you're going to take your trowel and you're just going to come up with it. You're probably not going to fill the crack all the way. You might have to put more on. But you're going to pick some up as you go. So then you just come back and it'll fill in the spots that are a little weak. And if you get a spot like that where it's pulled it up, you just kind of put some on there and go on up with it. We're going to need some more there. Just add some more if you need some more. You're ready to start laying tile. So what I've done is I've made me a mark on here. Well, what we're going to do next is I'm going to come across and take that thinset that are out on my ledge off. Cleans it up. Clean that ledge off good. And then I'm going to take this line that I've made and I'm going to line it up with that mark that I made earlier. And then you're just going to, you'll squish it. You work it back and forth. Okay, we got it lined up with the line. You might even just go ahead and take your tape measure and measure, see if you're about even on both sides. About 14 3/4. Okay. And you're going to take your next piece. When you put it up against there, something else you can do is if you got some right here, because it's going to squish out in the grout line if you don't take that off of there. So I take my little putty knife and I put it on there. I put my tile right up against that tile and on the ledge, and then I squish it back, work it back and forth. And then you're going to take your spacers take your towel and wipe it off. Take your spacers and spread it apart. And then you're ready with the next one. Again, I'm going to take this off here. You can hear the air bubbles popping out of it as you squish it. That's a good thing. So you're going to put your spacers in. And again, you can take your tape measure and measure just to make sure you're about the same on both sides. Yeah, we're just about the same. So now we're going to cut I'm going to go down and cut the pieces for this, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, we got our pieces cut, so we're ready to put them in. And again, you're just going to work I had a little extra to that one just because that's why I went ahead and squished out there. You're going to squish it down. Then to get that out, you can take your screwdriver and just run it down it. Same with this. Just take your screwdriver. Clean it up. Take your rag and put it up in there. Guess I shouldn't add the extra on there. Okay, we're going to clean this off again. You want your tile to be even with the other tile. I had that extra on there and I probably should not have. I was afraid I was going to be thin on this end here. Take your spacers and put them in there. I'm getting about an 1/8 of an inch gap at the end for a grout line back there. So, all right, so you got your first row set. Now you're ready to do your next one. And again, what I do is I take my putty knife and I'll clean that bottom edge off there. It helps to keep the thin set from squishing through too bad. Okay, so now like I say on this one, we're going to offset it. So now you can either go ahead and make a mark on here 6 inches, or you can go by this line. Either one. I'm just going by that line that's going up here. Work it back and forth. Making a mark on there, 6 inches. Okay, 6 inches. It should be in the center of that grout line. Move it over just a tiny bit. Okay. And if you need to, you can take some of this off. Put your next one on. Yeah. I forgot my spacers. If you've used these spacers before, sometimes they'll get thin set stuck on one side or the other. So you want to make sure you're putting it in a corner that you don't have any thin set. And then I'll take my little level and I'll level up. It needs to come back this way just a little bit because it needs to be in the center. The center of this line, or this line, needs to be in the center of the grout line actually, not to the edge of the tile. So you'll need to remember that. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Set our next one. Okay. Okay, so now you're going to get your measurement for over here. Make sure they're the same. Bring that on close. So let me go cut these pieces and I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay. Something I was going to show you. You can buy these little, it's like a file. It's like a sheet, but it's a file. And you can, on your rough edge, you can file it. Just kind of takes that sharp edge off. So we're ready to put these on. Spacers in. Okay, and we got the next one down here. I've already filed it. Kind of nice after they've set up a little bit, you can come back and wipe them off again with a good clean rag. Get rid of the extra film from this thin set. Okay, pretty good there. So that's how you get your first two rows, and then you just continue going on up. You can put your thin set on, and you can do just one row at a time if you're kind of slow at it. If you're a beginner, that's probably a good idea to just do one row at a time, because your thin set will start setting up on you, and then it makes things kind of uneven. But that's pretty much how you do it, and I'll show you other things as we come across them. Okay, I wanted to show you this. I'll put this next piece on. How I'm going to do it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to level up from my previous tile that on the bottom row. So I need to move it over some. And just a little bit more. Right there. Okay, just about right there. So that's how I keep it going in a level line. It works out pretty good. You could go ahead and make you could level line up and make a line here and then just go by it. But this seems to work pretty good. So I just wanted to show you that. Okay, we're ready to put the bottom piece on. And as you can tell, I've taken my board off. So we're ready to put these pieces on. And what I did was, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can just measure along down to the floor and get an average and just cut them all the same length or width. Or you can, I put a line where every piece is going to go. And then I measured from end to end, and then I actually cut it to whatever I needed it to be. So you get your pieces cut, and I've got them here, and let's see, that goes on a second. So this is 18, 17, 18. Okay, so what you do is you butter the back. Instead of trying to put it on here, we're going to butter the back of the tile. You just take your putty knife, put your some on. It's going to be more than you need, but it'll get scraped off, so you'll be all right. You just take your trowel and go over it. If I go over at least twice, and then you can take, like there's a little bit of overhanging here, you can take your little putty knife, scrape it off, clean the edges up some so you don't have so much squish out. And then you're going to, you just place it down. I lay it on the floor first and then just bring it up about where I need it. And I raise it up and push it in. I usually like to allow about 1/8 of an inch on the bottom grout line. So I try to cut it to that, so I'd go ahead and take one of my spacers and put it underneath. But it doesn't always work out that way, and I'm going to show you the remedy for that. You take your rag, kind of clean it up some. See, these are a little, oh, this one's okay. Well, not quite. So what I do is I've got these 1/16 inch spacers, and I'll take 2 of them and put them together, and I'll just squish it underneath there. Take my little screwdriver and just push them up underneath. It's not always the easiest task, but it seems to work pretty good. You get them underneath, and you can take your spacer, push against it. Your spacer will stay in there. Same thing down here. You can use shims, just anything you can find to keep the spacing the same. Just applies enough pressure that these are staying pretty tight. You can kind of pull them, you can tell that it's dragging. So then you're going to want to check to see how plumb it is, or if it's in a straight line. Go that way just a little bit. too far. That's pretty good right there. So we're pretty good there, and your spacers are in good. So then you just do the next one, and you just work your way out. This one you'll have to cut the size once you get it all in there. So let me get these put in, and then we'll put that last piece in. Okay, so I've got my other piece in, so we're ready to put this piece in. And you're going to measure it, and you're going to measure, you don't want about 1/8 of an inch at grout at this end. I've got these spacers are 3/16. So that's going to be about 5/16. So measure it and then take 5/16 off. So we've got 8 5/8. So it's going to be 8 5/16. So that's where we're going to cut this piece at. Let me go down and cut that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, we're ready to put this piece on. So let's go ahead and get some thinset on. And just do it the same way. You just lay it down there. Piece could be in the way. And just work it in there like you have all the rest. Clean the edges up. So you don't have to use these little spacers. You can, anything you can find to shim it up. Just hold pressure against it. But these little things are pretty flexible, so they work pretty good for this. And put one in the edge here. Make sure you've got your spacing. Feels good there. So that's how you do that. The next thing we need to do before we put this piece in here, we've got to come across with our curb. So I've got one piece cut, so we're going to go ahead and put it on. Some on there. Probably gonna squish out more than I need. Put that on there. You're gonna bring it up even with this curb. And so what you're essentially gonna do, you put this curb on or piece on first, and when you do this outside, if this is level across here, which it should be, you're gonna raise this up about 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch higher than this lip. And that way when you put your tile on the top, it'll show, shed the water properly. So I'm going to just put this up even with that. Put your little spacer in down here. Wipe that off first. Spacer in. That looks good. Piece of thinset laying there. So now we've got to measure for this piece. This is going to be kind of a delicate piece. It's going to go just a little piece up this edge here and then down here. So we're going to get this measurement and make a little mark on the wall. Actually, probably the best thing to do is take a piece. Take your spacer and put it in here so you got an idea, and then you can mark on the wall the edge of your tile and then measure back. So it's going to be about 1 5/8 inches is what we're going to need. So let me cut this piece off and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my piece cut and I've gone ahead and already buttered it on the back, so we're just going to place it on here. Get our little piece set. Put a little spacer in here. Spacer underneath. Make it even with the top there. Clean up your thinset. Your spacer right up here. Alright, just about perfect. So, alright, so now we got to cut. We got a little bitty piece that goes in here. And it's going to be about 1 5/8 of an inch too. So we need to cut that piece and then we're ready to put this piece in. So let me get this piece here cut and then I'll be right back. Okay, we're ready to put our last piece in. Well, for as far as the shower part goes. So let me get some mud on or thinset on here. Trout. Edge a little bit. Okay, spacers in. That's too much. Okay. Move this back. Alright, so we've got that set, and the next thing we'll be working on is the curve and putting the trim around. And okay, I'm going to show you how you put this border on. Not a whole lot to it. I usually start in the middle, and I draw me a line, a plumb line with my grout line, the center of my grout line. Well, then the way I set my first piece up is I set my first piece so that the foot comes out on this. That way when this piece comes on, it kind of covers up that grout line. It's not just a straight line, straight up. I just think it looks better that way. So let me get some mud on there, some thinset. Run our trowel across it. Again, on this I use the 1/4 inch trowel. There's a problem there. There we go. Okay. One of my slots was clogged up. Notches. So we're going to clean that up a little bit. Try to get some of the excess off so we don't have such a big mess. So we're going to take our piece, lay it on there, and wiggle it in good. Okay, then we're going to take a rag and kind of clean it up some. Screwdriver, we can run it down through there. Clean out some of that grout, or that thinset. Spacers. I'm spacing these at, they're about 1/8 of an inch. Check to see how centered it is. You can check on, you actually want to be away from your line just a little bit, if I remember right. Let's see. Yeah, let me move back this way so it's even, so it's actually lined up on each edge of this. This is 12 inches, this is 12 inches. So that's really what I probably should have aligned my line up with to start with. But I think we're pretty good there. Yeah, maybe just a bit more. Okay, I think we're good there. So then we're going to cut a piece to go in here, and then we'll carry it on this way. And on this border, because the grout line is a little skinnier than what you have on your wall pieces, it's going to move a little bit. So it's not going to stay consistent all the way across. That's okay. It's just all part of it. The next piece, set up in there, squish it in. And these borders just aren't, or these borders aren't perfect to start with. They aren't all equally spaced, each piece. You just kind of line it up the best you can. Spacers. Put them in. You're just going to have to kind of adjust as far as how far they are apart. Like I say, they're not consistent, so I've got a wider gap here than I do at this edge here. So you just kind of just play with it and make it, you know, look the best you can. So that's pretty much how you do your border. Like I say, you just cut this to size and just go from there. Okay, we're ready to put the top piece in now. I've already cut them to width, so all you do is you just measure, and then you know what I did. Let me kind of show you up here. What I did was, again, I'm going to take a line and draw it kind of straight up from where my joint's going to be, and then I took and got measurements, what it was going to be, and I took into consideration my grout lines, and I wrote that measurement up here. And I just did it at each joint, and because it's going to vary a little bit. I mean, you could make an average and then just cut them all the same. But I chose to cut each individual one to its right width. So that's what I did for getting my width size. And so we're ready to start putting these up. And so let me show you how I put my thin set on. Because you're going to have to butter the back. And I just put my trowel down in my cement. And you can either do it like this, or you can place your and you're going to clean up your edges. You're ready to put it up there. See, it's got all the thin set on it. Hard to get much pressure against it, so I kind of tap on it. It gets it sitting in there pretty good. Something else I do is I number my tile, like I started from this end. So I number 1, 2, and 3, and then I put my left piece and my right piece. I didn't cut my left and right fill-in pieces to size yet. I cut them to width, but not to or length, but not to width. And you're going to clean it up with your towel. Then you're going to take your level and level up. Let's come over just a little bit. Kind of get it set where I need it to be, pretty close. And then I'll take my spacers and put them in. And I'll go back and check it again, make sure I'm still good. Go back just a hair. Okay, pretty good there. So that's my first piece, and then I'll get my measurement for this piece, and we'll go ahead and put that in. Okay. So I want to mention, I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier or not, but not mixing up a whole bag of thinset at a time. Usually when I'm doing a lot of up and down on the ladder or doing a lot of this tedious work, I'll just mix a quarter of a bag at a time. If you've got a digital scale, that really helps a lot. It's a little easier on a digital scale than it is on a regular dial scale. But it just saves you a lot of thinset, because it's hard to get all this tile laid in the amount of time. You only get about 2 hours before it starts getting too thick to really set it in there good. So I want to keep that in mind. You can put your spacers in. Okay, so now that's that one. Let's do one more here, and take a board and wrap it with carpet or something and smack this with a hammer. You put the board on it and smack it with a hammer. Just make sure it's seated good. Clean up. Leave that up there. Okay, you might want to go ahead and check it again just to make sure you're still good on your tile being in line. Looks pretty darn good. Okay, so that's how you get the top in. When it comes to doing the doorway, we'll do the doorway, but that's how you do your top. Okay, when you get to this point to where you've got to cut, like this is a little ledge that you put your foot on when you're washing your legs. Most showers don't have them. I've never seen one in a shower before, but I decided to put one in mine. So you want to kind of think about how you're going to cut these pieces. And so what you're going to do is just try and figure out the best way it's going to flow. And what I do is I put them on the sides first, and then this piece is going to go like that. Actually, yeah, like that. And then this is a corner trim piece that you buy, and it'll sit up there on there like that. And then these pieces will go across like that. And then you'll have your top piece will sit on there like that. And so that's kind of the sequence that you're going to want to go in. And you'll just have to cut each piece. But you're wanting to cover up. You want to cover up this ridge that's on the back. You know, you don't want that exposed. And they sell these. It's called bullnose. that would go on top that covers that up. It's got a finished edge on the front. And same with these. And this was a piece of bullnose that I just cut to size. So that's how you would do that. And then on these up here, where the shelf is, you'll want to think about it too. What we've done here is this bullnose isn't long enough to go all the way across, so I've cut two pieces that will, and they'll go in like that. And then I've got, it takes just a little piece to go in the back. That's going to go in the back like that. And then you'll come down, that you'll go ahead and put your top on, which I've cut to the depth of, and again they're going to take a little piece that goes here, and you'll put them on, and then you'll put your sides on so that the water all kind of flows and your joints are on the wall, on the vertical wall instead of on the horizontal. So that's kind of how you lay it out. And see, these will go in there too, but they'll have to be cut down once I just kind of pre-cut everything so I don't have to cut it all at once. Make my thin set last a little longer. But once I get the tops and the bottoms in, these will be cut to size, and this piece here will actually have a little slant on it, because this shelf has got a little slant on it to shed the water right. But I wanted to show you that. So that's just got to kind of pay attention to how to lay this out. And they're actually, these are going to go on the side like this, and then you'll have your piece in here. Yeah, it won't fit in there because the tile's in there. Let's see if I can fit it in there. But anyways, it'll sit on there like that. And this is going to go up, and then we're going to 45 it up here at the top. And then back down. Of course, your wall tile will come over to here. But that's kind of how we're going to do this. So, just kind of pay attention to how you cut your pieces. Okay, to put the tile around this little ledge here, this ledge is for putting your foot on when you're taking a shower to wash your leg, make it a little easier. What we're going to do, you're going to want to pay attention to how you cut these pieces. And you're just going to cut them to size, and when you put them on, you're just going to butter the back of them a little bit. It's kind of like glue. You're just going to kind of wiggle them a little bit, get them set. And I want this about even with the top. Okay. Then we're going to put this piece on the front. And again, you're going to do it basically the same way, just kind of butter the back of it. And you're going to overhang this piece just a little bit. I'm going to clean that out. Okay. Then we've already made a center line, so we're gonna have to cut this piece to size. So actually it goes like that. But let me cut this piece to size, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, something you can do is where I've cut this, they make these little screens. It's like a file. You can file it off, or I've got this block. It's like a grinding stone. And you can do it like that, and it kind of gives it a little more of a finished edge. But you're just going to put this piece on there. Butter the back of it. Just run over a little bit. A little bit more right there. This squishes out pretty good, so just gonna put it up there and move it back and forth to get it set good. Take and put your spacers in there. If you have a hard time getting these pieces to stay up there, you can actually tape them. You know, get some duct tape or something and tape it around and let it hold. But they stay there pretty decent. This piece is a little crooked. But like I say, you can take and run some tape around to hold that. But then you're just going to do the other side just like you did this side. Okay, something I wanted to point out, if you make a ledge like this, you're going to want to make sure that it's got some kind of a pitch to it so that the water drains off right. I built it into the ledge itself, so it's already got, you can see the bubbles up here, so it's already got plenty of pitch. Or you can add extra thinset on the back. But I wanted to go ahead and get this set and show you how to put the top on. I'm just going to butter the back of it a little bit. And I've already got it cut to size, so I'm just going to do it like you normally would. Look it down in there. And of course, you're going to want to clean out the grout of the thinset. Wipe off the excess. Clean out where your grout's going to go. And that's about all there is to that. So let's get this little corner piece on. Okay. Actually, that's a little high or a little low. Let me add a little more to it. I think it's actually a little thinner than the first piece. So we'll just squish it down to where it's about even. Clean it up some. Set it where it needs to go. It's pretty even there. So that's all there is to it. There's a little gap behind here, but the wall tile will cover all that up. So that's how you do this little ledge. I just wanted to show you how to do that. Okay, I want to show you how to cut around this shelf here. A couple of things you're going to keep in mind. You need to remember that we're going to put a piece of bull nose in this spot here. So how you get this measurement here is you take a piece of this is going to go in here, so you go ahead and set it in there just to kind of get a measurement, and then this piece is going to cover that up like that. So then you can make you a mark on the wall, and then that's going to tell you where you need to cut this off, and then you're just going to cut it off even with the bottom of the shelf here, and then basically do the same thing on the other side. So you got that. Now what you're going to start out with is putting this shelf on first. You do these last. We'll put this on first, then this one, and then the sides. You do the sides last because you want your grout line to be on this wall, not on this wall. So let's go ahead and set these in there, and something you need to remember is to make sure that you have a little bit of a pitch on this so that the water drains out okay. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to put some thinset in there. A little more than I need probably. This is actually just a tad high. So we're going to make sure you got your finished edge to the center and to the outside there. Again, finished edge. Make sure it's level. And take your torpedo level and put it on it, and make sure you've got some drop to it so that the water drains off of it. And you take a screwdriver, and I always take the screwdriver and clean out my thinset. Let's get it down just a little bit. Wet rag. Clean that out. Clean off your top. Get it lined back up how you need it. Take your spacers and put them in there. Take another look at it, make sure it looks like your grout line is going to be nice and straight and even all the way across. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece, goes in the back. I might have to add a little more to it, I think. Just butter you some on there if you need some more. So it's about even on both sides. Clean your thinset out. You need to be kind of careful because you'll end up pushing it down in there. Take your screwdriver maybe. Couple spacers in there so that you know you're even. And you got these little bitty pieces that'll go in the end. Now we're going to put the top in. That's what these pieces are there. Huh? Alright, so I'll be right back. My videographer had to leave for a second, so let me finish doing this. I'm just going to butter it. Scrape it with the notched part. See the fix. So we're going under here. And you're just going to bring it out even with this edge here because it's going to get the bull nose on it. See how I'm doing that? This can be very, very trying, very nerve-wracking. Wiggle it back and forth so that you get it seated good. Scrape the excess off. Clean it up a little bit. I'll try to put a couple spacers. I don't know if they'll stay or not. Look, make sure it's even. I don't think them spacers are going to stay. Okay, so now we're going to cut these two pieces, the pieces that go on the side. And remember, this piece is going to have an angle to it because of the pitch of the, so you're going to get a measurement. And it's going to be about 11, not quite 11 inches there, and then 11, and about 11 and a 16th. So let me go get these two pieces cut and then I'll show you how you put them in there. Okay, so I've got my pieces cut and now we're ready to put them on. So let's get a little bit of butter the back a little bit. Something I've learned to do doing this, because some of this gets kind of meticulous, it takes a little bit more time, is I only mix up a half a bag of thinset at a time, because you have about 2 hours of work time and you just can't get it all together that fast. It just don't happen. So we're going to put this in, and again it's just going to come out even. You might take a spacer and put it at the bottom. Well, maybe not. Might take two of them. Yeah, looks like it's staying. But you can take something and put it underneath there just to make sure it stays up. I've got a shim here. One of these spacers isn't enough, so if we keep it in there like that, I think we'll be fine. And you're going to clean off your thin set. Okay, so now let's do the other side. Something else you can do when your thin set's starting to get a little older, you can take and you don't want to add any more water to it, but you can take your mixer and mix it again. You know, run your mixer through it, and it'll kind of rejuvenate it. So put that in there. I'll show you. See how I buttered the back of that? Clean off our thin set. Use a spacer. Let's use one spacer over here. Bring this down. I think that'll be perfect. Okay. And you can take a square and check to see how far close you are to that if you want to. But you can generally feel it pretty good. Okay, so now make sure you didn't mess anything up while you're doing that. So now we're ready to put this piece on. So what we're going to have to do is notch this. So just set it up there where you want it to, where it's going to be, and then make you a pencil mark. You're going to probably go ahead and allow for a little bit of a grout line, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, and then you can take this and line it up at the bottom of this piece and make a mark. And then we're going to go cut that. So let me go cut that and I'll be right back. Alright, we've got our pieces cut, so let's go ahead and butter the back of it. Go ahead and wipe it off, and then you can set it exactly where you need it to be. So you're just going to overhang that just a tiny bit. I got some other spacers I'm going to put in here. Oops. One of those. Pretty good there. Okay, so let's do the other side. Scrape some more out of that crack right there. Straightened up here. You might want to. I'm sorry. And there. All right, it's pretty well set. So that's how you do that. Okay, so then you're just going to do the same thing on the top part. And we'll take a piece of this bull nose and it's going to go on here like that. Of course, I'm going to cut it down, but it'll go on that lip right there to cover that lip up, and we'll have a little piece here and a little piece there. Or we'll do like we did down here and cut it to length, is what we'll probably end up doing. So that's all there is to that. Okay, we've got our pieces to go up this wall for the curb. And you got to remember, you've got to check to see how level this is, and you want checks how level it is, and then you want to be 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch higher on this side, so that the water drains back into the tub or the shower. So we're going to just butter the back of this and put it on here like that. See how it's just a little higher. So actually, we're going to put some spacers on the bottom of it. We're going to put our cut edge up. You're just going to push it onto the wall, just like you did the rest of the wall. Then I'm going to take 2 of these spacers and I'm going to lay them underneath. The way I measured this was I measured it at my level mark, and then added 1/4 of an inch to it. Or actually, I just cut it at that size, at my level mark, and then putting these spacers under it gives me my 1/4 inch. So then we're ready to do the next piece. Okay, what I'm doing is, I'll show you here in just a second, but I've got a piece of trim that's going to go up this wall to finish it out. Put your spacers underneath. Line it up. Take your screwdriver and clean that grout out. Or not grout, but thinset. Line it up with your, take a spacer and put it in it if you want. Okay, so last piece. Just laid these tiles, so they're still a little wet. Line it up where it's supposed to be. Should be good there. Okay. Let me show you what I was going to do as far as trim goes. This piece of trim is going to go on there like this, and that'll finish it off, and then it'll go up against the tile that are going to go up this wall here. I don't know if you can see up here or not, but right here. And the same on this side, sitting there like that. So that's how you put this up, and then like I say, you're going to let this dry, and then you're going to fill this in with thinset and put your top on. So that's how you do that. Okay, to fill in this curb, now that this has had time to set up some, I just mixed up a batch of the same mortar that I used for the pan. You just put it in there, kind of squish it down inside. We're going to screed it here in a minute, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Okay, and you can take a piece of tile, anything with a straight edge on it, and I'm just going to use a piece of this curb, or not curb, a piece of this bull nose, and turn it around backwards. And we're just going to screed across it. you might just pick up some of that, get it in the way. You might take your trowel, kind of run over it. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect because you're going to put thinset on top of it. So as long as it fills in most of it. And so that's how you fill up the curb, and then it's got plenty of pitch so that the water drains back into the shower if any gets out. So that's how you do that. Okay, our mortar has dried on our curb, and so we're ready to start setting the tile. But to go ahead and have all my pieces cut before I actually mix my thinset so I can move along a little quicker, we need to figure out what angle this is, and go ahead and cut these pieces at that angle. And you want your two pieces to be, I mean, you're going to cut them individually, but you want them to be even at the top. So you can't just measure this angle and then cut this piece and then, you know, do the same thing with this. You know, measure this angle and cut this piece. Otherwise, they won't be even at the top. The way to get around that is you can take your square. I'm going to set our tile pretty much where it's going to go. And you can take your square and put it down to it and get a measurement as to what that angle is, all of it, all the way across. And we're basically going from nothing to, it's going to be real hard to get a measurement on that. So I'm just going to estimate it at about 3/16 of an inch. So what you're going to do is you can take your square and line these up, or I'm going to put them right up against this wall because that wall is flat. I'm going to put them up against that wall, and then you're going to take your spacers and put them in it, just like you were putting it up there. And then you can measure your 3/16. Now the 3/16 is going to be the opposite. You're going to put your measurement on the opposite end, at the nothing end. So we're going to put our 3/16 on there. And then we're going to start at nothing on the opposite end. We're going to hold these together. Take our square. Can you see that okay? Take our square and place it on there. And line up nothing here and then our 3/16 there while you're kind of holding that together there at the same time. And then you just make your pencil mark. And that should be the angle all the way down. So then we go get this cut and we'll check to see if that works out right. Okay, let's check to see how well we did. We're just going to line it up. I've got my line going up. That's my line I'm going to be setting this first piece at. So we're going to line it up with it. See how it lines up on the tile itself. It's just about perfect. And then we're going to check our next piece. We're going to line it up at the outside of the wall. That's where it's going. And it's good too. So then they should both end up at the same height at the top. And you can check it. It's either good. Now that's what you want. So that's how you cut that angle. Okay, we're ready to start putting the tile on the curb. And what you're going to do is you want it to line up pretty much with the edge of this tile. And then you're going to fill this in with grout once you get it set up. So let me get this, let me file this real quick. I noticed I hadn't filed this. That filing those makes a big difference when it comes to how smooth the edge is. guess I did that one again. All right. So we're going to put our thin set on here, and then we're going to set these tile. Okay, we're going to start with these. What we're going to do, I've got them. Clean what? Here. Yeah, you can clean off the edge a little bit to keep it from goozing out too bad. What we're doing is we're lining them up with these pieces. I'm just going to squish that down in there. Get it lined up. The next piece. Just going to kind of wiggle it a little bit back and forth. Get it down in there good. We put bull nose on this to go over this way, and then we'll also have bull nose go in this direction. Get some of that out of there. And then you're going to do the same thing on the inside. Line it up with the front of the shower. This front wall here. Little bees. Okay. So then we're going to take our wet rag and wipe all this out, this excess off the front here, and then we'll start going up the side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then I'll go up the wall. Okay, so now we're ready to start going up the sides. Something you can do, I didn't tell you, you can take your square and put it up against there and make sure you're up against it good. Check it all the way around. You can do it on the inside too. But when we put this, I'm going to start out with my inside piece because that's where I've got my line. I've got my line going up. And this is my angled piece that I cut earlier. And we're going to butter the back of it. I'm not going to put it on here. I'm going to butter the back of it. So let me get that buttered. Don't work it in there like you normally would. Wiggle a little bit. problem with going ahead and putting the mud on there ahead is you can't see your line as well. So then we're going to take a spacer and put it underneath to give us our space. Then we'll put our next piece on. Clean off the excess. You want your factory edge is going to go towards your other piece, and your cut edge goes to the outside. Get it stuck on there. Get that wiped off. Put some spacers in it. Move that one just a little bit. Oops, let's get my spacer down here first. Spacers aren't cooperating very well. There it goes again. Sometimes you just have to, you might have to just kind of keep an eye on it, set it up, keep an eye on it, go on up, and just keep going back, check it to make sure it stays where it's supposed to be. This is actually supposed to be back just a little bit. Like that. Tankers. Okay, so then you just keep going all the way up, and then you'll do the other side just the same way. When I get to the ceiling, I'll show you how I do the ceiling, or the top, not really the ceiling, but the top of the doorway. Okay, normally I would want to put my top on first so that my grout line is going straight up the wall, but because of the width of this doorway, it doesn't work out. I would have to put just a tiny piece at each end so that, you know, if you place it like it should be, I mean, now it works out pretty good with the grout lines, but if you didn't have these on, you'd have to put just a teeny tiny piece in. So anyway, so we're ready to put this up. So you just butter it like you did the other ones. And something I want to add is, if you're thin set, you might want to stir your thin set occasionally, especially when you're doing some of the little stuff like this. When you're doing little stuff like this, you might want to stir it a little bit just to kind of liven it back up. It starts to get a little film on the top. And, so what we're going to do, we're just going to place it up there. And then once we get the other one up there, we're just going to place it, try to make the grout lines all about the same size. So let me get this other one up. Something I want to point out about this boy nose. Okay, about this bull nose, I don't take the thin set all the way up to the edge, because the edge is going to be on this tile on the inside, and it's not going to, you really don't want the thin set there because you want to fill that up with some grout. So I come about a ½ inch from the edge. Okay, so now you're just going to kind of even it up so that you have about the same grout line on each end and in the middle. It looks pretty good. You're going to want your tile to be fairly, you know, flush, I guess I'll say. If there's not, you can add a little more thin set to one side or the other, just to kind of bring it up some. It's just a little low right there. I don't know if you can tell in the thing, but you can add a little more thin set to that and bring it up. That's all there is to it. You're going to put the other piece on, clean it up, and that's pretty much it. Outside of grouting, that's all we got left on this shower is to grout it. Okay, something I failed to mention. If you're concerned about this falling off, you can run some tape from the inside to the out after you get this other piece on. It's probably not a bad idea to kind of help to secure it there. I just wanted to tell you that. Okay, so now we're ready. We got the ceiling done. So now we're ready to start doing the walls. So it's just basically the same thing. You put a little grout on your trowel. Hardest part is getting it in the corners. You're going to work it in there. What I was doing is I put a little bit on that corner. Let me show you. Just putting a little bit on the one corner that I'm working in, and then just bring it down to get it into that corner. Go back and do your. It's much easier doing a wall than it is doing a ceiling. Just kind of work it in there. You can wipe off the sides of your trowel. I'm just going to try to be soft about it. You get some in the ceiling or in the corner. And once you get an area done, you're going to go back and you're going to go diagonally. So that you push it in there, clean it off, and you can take your trowel and go back over it a little bit just to make sure it's in there good. Over each joint. And then go back over it again, diagonally to clean it off. And so that's pretty much how you do a wall. And then again, you're going to wait 15 to 30 minutes and come back and wipe it off. Okay, let me show you something that you can do to, these corners are kind of hard to get into. So you can take a putty knife and just kind of gently go back. And take a wash rag or washcloth or something, just kind of wipe it again. And it gets it out of that corner, gives you a nice sharp corner. Okay, a few things I want to tell you about when you're putting the grout in. First of all, I only mix up a partial bag. I've got a digital scale which helps a whole lot. So I'll mix up 5 or 10 pounds at a time instead of, I get a 25-pound bag instead of fixing the whole bag.
because especially doing like a shower, you just can't move that fast. Where you're doing the walls, the mortar or the grout will set up before you get a chance to spread it all. So I'll do just 5 or 10 pounds at a time. This really needs to be a team job. It really takes 2 people to do it right. My wife always helps me, so what she does, she gets a couple of buckets of water, and we'll wait the 15 to 30 minutes, and then she comes in behind me and wipes the grout out. And like I say, she'll do it twice, and then she'll let it dry a little longer, and then come back again and get that final haze off. You can also, if you want to, come back even the following day and go back over it again just to get any extra haze that's on there. Something else, you can take a trowel, or not trowel, but a putty knife, and when you do your corners, especially like getting up in the top of a corner, you can take your trowel and just run it. You're going to run it against, like my grout is on this wall, so you're going to put your putty knife on that wall. And you just let the person that's wiping the grout off, let them get done doing that. Do it the second time. And then while the grout is still, not totally dry, but pretty dry, semi-dry, just run it up and it'll take it off. It just cuts it right off. It gives you a nice clean corner, especially getting up in a corner. If you can't hardly get your rag or your sponge or whatever you can use to wipe the grout out, you can't get it out. So that's a good idea to do. And the reason we use a towel instead of a sponge is you can wipe so much more with a towel than you can with a sponge. With a sponge, you're constantly rinsing your sponge out. Whereas with the towel, you can wipe, and you can turn it over, then you can flip it inside out, and wipe again. So that's the reason we use a towel, and it does just as good a job as a sponge. So those are just a few things I wanted to tell you that you'll want to keep in mind when you're doing your grout. Thank you for watching, and check out my other videos at doityourselfdennis.com. Thanks again.